Kazan.
Well, let's pick up on some of those points, in particular those North Korean troops in Russia. Let's speak to Jean Lee, a former Pyongyang bureau chief for the Associated Press. Now, Jean, you're a fellow at the East-West Center in Hawaii, and you're also the co-host of the Lazarus Heist podcast on the BBC World Service. Welcome. Just talk us through. We know that when it comes to North Korea and Russia, there is a closening relationship. We had, of course, Kim Jong-un in Vladivostok himself, traveling by his train to Vladivostok back in September last year. What is this relationship, and what do we make of the fact that so many thousands of North Korean troops are potentially going to be embroiled in the war in Ukraine?
And I should mention that we had the Russian president in Pyongyang in June, and that was where they signed a military pact and perhaps discussed what it was that each of them wanted and needed. Now, what I will say is that this is a traditional relationship. The Soviet Union was North Korea's first supporter, and it is a relationship that Kim Jong-un would certainly like to show his people is still intact. In reality, after the fall of the Soviet Union in the early 1990s, Russia really withdrew quite a bit in terms of its support for North Korea. I had seen in recent years very little financial support from Russia to North Korea, very little trade. But this is a time when each of them has something that the other wants. These are two leaders who are very isolated. And this is one time when North Korea has something that Russia wants. Now, I should mention that the latest reports are about the possibility of troops being sent to Ukraine, being trained in Russia. But we had seen reports previously and allegations by the US and South Korea and Ukraine that North Korea was sending artillery shells, which is something Russia needs because these are old Soviet weapons that many of their soldiers are using, and also short-range ballistic missiles. And there has been some evidence of the remains of those missiles being fired in Ukraine, being found in Ukraine. And so this is the next step that we're seeing. It's quite possible that North Korea is sending soldiers as mercenaries. What we don't know is what Kim Jong-un of North Korea is getting in return. This is a transactional relationship. He is certainly getting something in return. And the big concern, particularly in Washington and Seoul, is what is he getting, and how could that make a very tense situation in the Korean Peninsula even more difficult?
Is that because potentially Russia could be giving some information about nuclear proliferation? Is that, or nuclear enhancing North Korea's nuclear capabilities? Is that where the concern lies?
That is the concern. Kim Jong-un certainly has laid out a very ambitious plan to beef up his nuclear arsenal. But, you know, these weapons, it's a complicated technology, and it's quite possible that he is seeking some specialized technological information that only Russia could provide. And, you know, we don't know, but that is the concern, because any kind of information or specialized technology that Russia may provide to North Korea could certainly help him get past some hurdles that he's faced with some of his latest launches of ballistic missiles. And that has larger ramifications. Of course, those weapons are already a major threat to the region. But I think if he's able to get those weapons to the next level, they could certainly be a threat globally. And so this is why we're watching this relationship so closely. It has implications that go beyond just the Ukraine battlefield, which alone is of concern. But we start to see this relationship have a ripple effect in other parts of the world as well.
Jean Lee from the East-West Center in Hawaii, thank you so much for your time.